I wanted to do a little demo on making your own collage paper. I have mentioned before, I was not a big collage fan. When I saw it in other people's work, often it just looked like it was stuck on and it wasn't really integrated into the surface, or else it was purely a collage work and really had nothing to do with painting. So I never really got too involved in it until this last spring when I learned a lot more about it. And then since then I've learned a few other things that speak to me as a painter and being able to integrate collage elements into my work. And so I wanted to show you what I think is a pretty cool way to make your own collage papers that's not just on paper. So like before I found this, you know, I sat down and just made like collage paper, what I thought I might use sometime. And just, you know, messed around with some paint and did some color stuff and just played around. I don't know that I'll ever use these. I might try it in a video just to see how it goes and to work on some different ways to integrate collage into your work. But then I stumbled across the idea of making collage paper on deli paper. And so I did a number of these striped ideas, which I still really like. And this is kind of my last bit. So I'm going to make some more and show you how I'm doing that. And then in a second video, I'll show you how I put them on a painting and then start to integrate them into the surface. So I am using deli paper. It is different than parchment paper because it is a bit more porous and a little bit less waxy. So the paint actually adheres to the surface and it doesn't just peel off. Whereas I've tried using parchment paper, you know, because I use parchment paper on my palette, and I've tried, you know, taking an old palette and integrating that into a painting. But the moment you try to manipulate the surface at all, the paint will just come off that, will come off the paper, and it just causes problems. So, but deli paper does not do that. And the great thing about deli paper is that it's fairly translucent. And so it will already just start to melt into your painting, which is super cool. So for me anyway, I like that. So this one, I have the long stripes, the horizontal stripes, and this one I'm gonna do vertical stripes. So I've mixed up some colors here, and I'm just gonna use, you can see where I use just the edge of this little tool. You could use a ruler or whatever. I first tried like, you know, cutting up little pieces of tape and doing it like that, which works, but then it's also super time consuming, and I just don't have the patience for it. And plus I didn't get all my lines were really hard because of the tape. So I started doing it this way, and I like the effects a lot better. So another thing I like to do is I really like to have a lot of variated colors. Instead of just whacking through here and doing, you know, one color, one page of stripes, I want to have some more variety too. So this is a great project to do when you feel kind of stuck and you don't really, you want to paint, but you just are kind of stuck with like what's on your easel and don't really know where to go. Feel like maybe if you start, you'll screw something up in a way that, you know, will take a long time to come back from. I mean, I do say paint a lot and make mistakes and go for it and all that stuff, but there are times too where, you know, you've got some paintings and they just need to sit still, like you're not really sure what to do. And I think often what happens is people are like, well, I have to paint and I feel like painting and I really want to paint, so I'm just going to keep working on these. And then they really do overwork it and kill them because there was something else going on there, but they kind of rushed through that part. So this is another way to get something done where you're still painting and you're thinking about colors and you get to play around and make something, but with an alternative. It's not a painting, so it's also relaxing and kind of easy. I think a lot of times when I don't feel like painting, I often can start feeling like painting doing something like this. It's not quite mindless, but it's kind of close to mindless. You really don't need much paint for this. But I do plan on doing, kind of making a box full of this stuff again too. It's really nice to have it on hand. And so the colors that I've chosen, I've tried to really keep the same kinds of, so when I paint, I typically am using some, what I guess I would call base colors for me, right? Like they're pretty common. So I've taken those colors and used them to make up these colors that I'm using here. And that way it gives me a greater chance of them kind of fitting into whatever painting I put them in, because I know I typically use these colors. You know, if I were just to do this, say in like, you know, some sort of a blue, like ultramarine, that's what I was trying to say, ultramarine blue. This would really not work in my paintings because I just don't use ultramarine blue right now. I don't use it at all. So it would really stand out like a sore thumb. Because I'm using colors that I paint with, I'm creating already harmony so that these stripes will integrate much easier into almost any painting I do right now. And that's color harmony. Isn't that cool? And you don't have to use just the colors that you normally use. In here, I also have a cad yellow medium, which I rarely use. I mean, it shows up sometimes in some of my stuff, but it's not a very common color. But I use the yellow to kind of dirty these up and make them a little more interesting. So it's not that I'm using only the colors. This is nice, this kind of slant coming in. I'm kind of digging that. So I can make some of these quite thin and get a little thicker. So this is like sort of a meditative practice, really, once you get everything set up and you kind of know what you're doing. And I've tried some other stuff where, you know, I've basically like painted on there. I've seen other artists where they will do like huge loose brush strokes and then use those to put in their collage, and it's really cool. But personally for me, I haven't really figured out how to do that, or at least I haven't needed to do it, needed to add anything like that to my painting. I feel like I'm kind of getting that already on my canvas, and so by the time when I kind of get to adding collage, these brush strokes on a separate paper, they kind of screw up my composition that I've got going already. So I've not figured out how to do that for me yet, but other artists do. It's really cool. It's very interesting. So never say never, but so far I haven't really figured it out. But like I said, I'm pretty new with the whole collage thing too. I was very resistant to it. I'm a bit of a curmudgeon, I found out, taking these lessons last spring. I'm really resistant to new ideas. It was quite shocking. I didn't think that was me, but it is. So what I found out was, it was really interesting because I felt that resistance and getting really angry, like someone made me take these classes and they were telling me how to do stuff, which really wasn't happening. But in my mind, I kind of went back to, I guess, being a rebellious teenager. So I was super resistant, and so then what I decided I would do, because it was annoying the adult in me who like, hey, you know, you paid money to take this course so you would learn stuff, so it would probably behoove you to try new things. And so I made a rule that I had to try the techniques that I particularly found detestable upon sight, right? And collage was one of those. And so I said, okay, I'll try it, because I have such a visceral reaction to how much I dislike it. This means something, and it means I need to pay attention, and it means I should probably check it out. And so I did, and then I found out that I kind of liked it, and it was kind of cool. And then I found this deli paper thing a few months later, and I'm like, oh, I really like this even more. And now I am no longer a big negative on collage. For me, I was never a big negative on collage for anybody, just for me. But I think that's an important lesson, really, probably for most of us. If we find ourselves hating something on site like that, you know, that's like a technique. Hating it, like having a really visceral reaction, as there's something in there you need to pay attention to. And so I don't know, I'm not sure really where my distaste for collage comes from. I don't know if it's just that it struck me as being very artsy craftsy and not really, you know, being an artist, which is nuts, because I don't really think that, but there must have been some belief like that in my head somewhere. I know when I went to college to study painting and sculpture, you know, there was the ceramics department, and all of us painters just made fun of them. Like, they weren't real artists. They were arts and crafts, which is not art. Although, literally since probably pre-kindergarten, watching Sesame Street, where they would do little videos, I distinctly remember to this day watching the video again and again of the video clip that they would show of the woman, I believe it was, making pottery on a wheel. And I was just mesmerized, and I really, really wanted to do that. I grew up outside and playing in the dirt and the mud and all that stuff. So it really appealed to me, and I could imagine what it would feel like, and then being able to manipulate it and turn it into something, it fascinated me. And I always wanted to do it, but there was never any pottery like that with a wheel in any of the schools that I went to until I got to college. By college, I was too much of a snob to do it. So many years later, I found this pottery studio where I lived in Houston. And if you're in Houston, you need to go there if you're at all interested in pottery. It's Foelber, Foelber, pottery studio. It's a husband and wife team. It's in the Montrose area. They've been there for decades. They are the most loving, truly authentic, caring, warm, supportive teachers I've ever had the true honor to work with. It was affordable. They did all the grunt work for you, so you just got to throw and trim and glaze, and they did everything else. And they have this huge glaze room with glazes forever. They do fire kilns, so you just get to do really amazing colors. It is the coolest thing. That looks really nice. Now we're going to try a couple different things. One is using this bubble wrap, and I have one that I already kind of did some tests on, but the video didn't turn out very well, so I'm redoing it. And I want to start by saying this is a technique that I see a lot of painters using in their paintings, and because I know it's bubble wrap, I don't enjoy it. It's like knowing, excuse me, it's like knowing a magic trick, right? So like the lady's floating in the air and now you know exactly how it's done. So the illusion, the magic is just gone. You just like, you know that there's a thing that she's really laying on. It's not really that special. So, and that's kind of how I feel about this. So I want, because I have such strong feelings about it, I want to see if there isn't a way to make it work for me. And I need to grab white paint. Hold on, sorry. Okay. So I'm gonna see if I can't get this working. Because the one great thing about it is, I mean, it is quick. You put down, you know, you get your paint on here, flip it over, scrub it out on the paper and you're done. You've got that, you know, huge amount of paper covered right away and you can just move on to do more. So anyway, so let's give it a shot. I'm going to start with a bit of a darker color. And I want to try something out because I'm wondering if, because there's already dried paint on here, if that doesn't change subtly change the shape of the circles and give them a little bit more of like a hexagon look. That's just a theory and I just want to test it out. Yeah, they seem to have a bit more corners here and they start to look hexagon. And I think that's because it's being reused. It's just something that I've noticed in other people's paintings. And I just was curious as to how the bubble wrap became hexagons. And I think that's why. So what I've done is I've moved it while the paint's still wet to kind of give it a bit more of a smear so it's not quite so mechanical. And I think, yeah, that the hexagon look is definitely, I don't know if I'm a good candidate for this because that bothers me, which means I would only be using this thing really one time unless I can figure out a way to get rid of the strong cornering that goes on. So, which I guess would mean washing the plastic, which I don't really see myself doing in real life. So this may be the only time I have bubble wrap happening in my studio. So that is just it's a personal preference thing and not a judgment of other painters. I don't really care if you use it, and if you love it, you totally should use it. This is really just me. And I mentioned earlier, I have succumbed to being an art snob before, so there's probably no reason to think I'm not still a bit of an art snob. But let's see if this is just an illusion about the corners. Maybe it's about how hard you press down. See, I don't really see the same kinds of corners. For me, the reason why I enjoy this more is because I got in some lights and some darks and it's a little bit different. But to talk about the cornering again, it's subtle. I'm not going to pretend it's not subtle, but it is definitely there. Like I can start to pick out shapes in here that there's a corner on that circle and I can see it. And I've noticed this in other people's paintings as well. So I don't see the same kind of strong corners in this. And I did shift it around, so it is going to kind of change those circles a bit. So, but I like the way that one turned out quite a bit. it's also about really getting the right ratio of paint down on that plastic to begin with, I think. And I think it's important for me to avoid that sort of mechanical look, to also move the plastic before I completely lift it off. So I'm doing like 2 transfers or 3 or more instead of just one solid, nicely put down, really neat one. I don't really want the neat look. And so I'm just gonna smear it up here and move it over. Yeah, I like that better. That way you're kind of the idea of circles without it being so in my face about circles. Okay. So, I also had another idea about a different way to get circles down that don't involve drawing them or painting them, because it's hard to get a thin line. What I do like about the collage, so anyway, I'm using a toilet paper roll, is getting that thin line that a brush isn't going to always get. So I thought this might be a good way, to transfer paint over. I just said oops, because there's like, I caught a big blob of paint there, which is kind of great. And I like this because, you know, you're not getting a perfect circle. I don't want a perfect circle. I want something that's a little more organic and accidental and kind of doing its own thing. One thing I'm not doing, at least right now, on this one is a lot of overlap. What I was, there, I just did one. I needed it there though. Yeah, it's gonna have to be some overlap. But what I was saying about the lines is that I like the thinner lines because that means more of the painting can come through. And so instead of just doing, you know, like a big blob of color and then just pasting that color onto the painting, that's the part I really haven't figured out yet, how to make that work for me. So I like the idea of having a lot of open space in this and get it to incorporate into the painting that way. I'm not sure if those words are really making sense, but I know what I mean. And then as I continue to show more steps going forward, then I think you'll have a better understanding if I wasn't clear about what I meant, what I mean, what I'm talking about. This is so much fun, I have to say, because I'm just really don't care. And it's so rewarding to get a really nice circle shape so quickly. I mean, and it's not like I didn't know that was going to happen. It's not a surprise, and that's why I picked this toilet paper roll to do it, but I didn't think I would enjoy it so much. I guess there's something about the speed of just being able to lay out circles like this on a sheet of paper so quickly. That's just, wow, what a lot of fun. How cool is that? Okay. Yeah, I think I'm just going to leave this one alone. I have some more circle shapes I want to use, so I can do some that are more variable. But right now, I think we'll just kind of be just maybe one shape at a time. So I have an old lid to an empty bottle. I figured this one might be cool to use. This is harder, so it's not going to give you the same amount of coverage like the cardboard, you know, as it continues to get wetter and wetter with the paint, it starts to change too, and pick up more paint. This is a lot different. It's so interesting, isn't it? This is the kind of experiment and play that I enjoy because it's quick. It's really low risk because this is just a sheet of deli paper. It doesn't have to be anything else. And I think it will make for some great collage. And this is that really perfect circle, so I think it's important to kind of, you know, move this while you put it down to kind of break up that intensely perfect circle, which is another reason why I like the cardboard so much, because just a little bit of squeezing pressure changes that shape. But this is nice too, and the messiness of it I think is definitely good for. And look how quickly, once again, I mean, this is like no time at all. Okay, I'm really excited to use this stuff somewhere. Okay, so that's that size. And now I'm going to use another lid, but it's much smaller. And we'll see how this goes. I may leave this one more open like this so it's not, circly everywhere. Maybe just a few circles here and there to make this a little more open. And try not to build stripes. I really don't want this to be, a regular pattern. I want that really just random collection of shapes is what I want, a collection of circles. So the sameness is in the colors and the sameness is in the size of the actual shape. Being a little more thoughtful about where I put these so that I can have something that doesn't look too contrived and is still pretty open. That they're not all just packed onto each other like the last couple of series were. But yeah. Who knew? I certainly didn't. I really didn't expect to have this much excitement about doing this. This is a lot of fun. Now I gotta let those dry, but I guess I've got all this paint. I should use it up so it doesn't get wasted on the palette. But I'm really thrilled by how much I'm enjoying this. This is, I guess, really like preschool arts and crafts, right? I don't know if I even enjoyed it that much as a kid. But I mean, you could get like little toothpaste cap circle. That would be a really nice one. You could go even smaller with like a, the little plastic bit that goes over your tires, the air cover, the tube cover from a bike or even your car. That would be nice and small. What else? I mean, there's cookie cutters. I'm just thinking really small would be fun too. It would take a little bit longer, but it would be probably a really nice design. And I mean, honestly, in my eye, to me, this is so much more interesting than that. And not that this is bad, but I think that is, I get a little bit bored here, but here, I'm a little more excited about that. And I did some different ones. And I'm still, this is more me, more of what I like. And so, how interesting. Yeah, this is cool. And there I've got like 4 pages of circles already, just like that. I mean, this is like no time at all. No time. Wow. I'm blown away by how much I've said it already. I'm just very excited about this. This is fun. Oh, okay, I have one more thing I want to try, and I need a different tool. Oh, actually, I'm just going to try using a pencil. Okay, so I still have some paint on this palette, although it's very, very thin. And then I have this big glob of gel medium. So I'm gonna tear that off because I don't want to use that. But because the paint is still wet, I have an idea about utilizing more of that paint. So I'm gonna very lightly put it over the top here. And then I'm going to, with just a pencil, just make some lines. So not as crisp and clear, although I am getting some nice lines that I was envisioning, but I'm also not getting just one big blob of paint. I mean, because while that is pretty, I don't know that I would incorporate it. Well, I don't know, it's looking pretty nice now with the circles and stuff in it. But typically, if it didn't have all those marks in it, I wouldn't be interested in using it in my painting. But I like the way this is kind of getting that paint on here in a very delicate way rather than just a big blob. So this might turn into a nice bit of collage paper as well. And utilizing paint that normally I wouldn't use for anything else. It would just get dried up and tossed. Well, that's cool. Now I'm kind of starting to pick up a line through there. That's interesting. And another, using the corner of my brayer, see if that pushes some paint down. It's getting pretty thin and dried out now. So there's not going to be a lot of transfer anymore. And that looks pretty nice, but I mean, come on. That may have to be incorporated into, I don't know how successful it would be because of the parchment paper, the qualities. The paint really wants to just lift off, and it will once you start working with it. Unfortunately, it's the one unfortunate thing about parchment paper. I will say even the back is pretty. I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but you can see some of the individual colors that I used to mix. They kind of stayed down there at the bottom. That's pretty cool. All right, so then I may use that. They may be perfect for some painting at some point or not. And we'll see what this looks like. This may just be a good inspiration at a later date and not particularly something that I use. So there, I used up a bunch of everything and didn't waste any paint. And that is a good thing, especially when you're doing, you know, just some experiments. It's nice to know you didn't just waste a whole bunch of paint. Let me know if this was helpful to you, and stay tuned because there's going to be a part 2 about how I actually put these onto my painting, and then another part about how to integrate them into the painting so they're not just things sitting on the surface of your paintings. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. If you like this video, I'd appreciate it if you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. I'm Pamela Robertson. I'm a coach to other abstract artists, and I love getting to talk about painting and the mindset around painting and improving your practice with other abstract artists. And I've been really fortunate to see some amazing growth in the really incredible people that I've been able to work with. If you're interested in working with a coach around your abstract art, check me out at Strong Artist Life. That's my website. I'll put the link below in the description. On the same topic, I also offer a 30-minute free masterclass called The 3 Biggest Obstacles Preventing You from Becoming the Successful Abstract Artist You Know You Are Meant to Be. And I'll put the link to that below too. I hope to see you again here soon. Have a great day.